with Turkey and Azerbaijan is going to be a game changer. And it will bring Europe
Strategy and Development of the Applied Policy Research Institute of Armenia. I kindly invite her to take a seat on the floor and we'll commence our discussion. Thank you.
I invite the panelists to join me on the stage, please. Please. Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, and ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to this high-level panel at the YerevanDialogue 2025 on the South Caucasus as a strategic hub, challenges and opportunities for trade and connectivity. My name is Anahit Pilibosyan, and I am the Vice President of Strategy and Development at APRE Armenia, a Yerevan-based independent think tank. Recent developments, including short-term and long-term geoeconomic and geopolitical shifts, are reinforcing the South Caucasus's potential as a bridge and a vital hub linking Europe and Asia. According to the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the region transported 1 million tons of cargo traffic in 2023, an increase of 65% from 2022, and with a potential for a lot more. But obstacles are preventing it, such as unpredictable journey delays and poor digital and transport infrastructure. This is why we are here today. We have the pleasure of having distinguished speakers to talk about both the promises and the challenges for transit and connectivity in the South Caucasus. Armen Grigorian, Secretary of the Security Council of Armenia, Ambassador Lazar Comenescu, Secretary General, Permanent International Secretariat of the Organization of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, Dr. Saeed Khadibzadeh, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Head of the Institute for Political and International Studies of Iran, Joshua Kuchera, Senior South Caucasus Analyst at the International Crisis Group, and Eleonora Tafuro-Ambrosetti, Senior Research Fellow at the Russia, Caucasus, and Central Asia Center at the Italian Institute for International Political Studies, ISPI. We will have 2 rounds of questions before opening to Q&A if we have the time. I will start now my questions, starting with Secretary Grigorian. The Crossroads of Peace encapsulates the Armenian government's vision for connectivity in the region. We heard the Prime Minister speak about it, but perhaps you can elaborate a bit more and also explain how it fits in the wider connectivity projects such as the International North-South Transport Corridor and the Middle Corridor.
Thank you, Anaidi, and I would like to join all the welcome words to YerevanDialogue, and it's a great honor to be here and to speak to this audience. In reality, the Peace Crossroad is an economic project that has an aim to unblock the region, create interconnectivity in the region, increase interdependency, and strengthen peace and stability in the region. And the government of Armenia came up with this proposal to the regional countries and also to the global community, I mean the other countries, to be engaged in this process, which has a great chance to bring prosperity, first of all, prosperity and also stability. We have a strong belief that peace process has many components, and one of the components is economic interrelation between the regional countries, but also, as I mentioned, the project Peace Crossroad gives opportunity to other countries also to be engaged in the process, to gain from the process. For us, it's very much important that the unblocking should happen based on the sovereignty and jurisdiction of the regional countries. And that's very much important also in the context of the peace. We also consider very much important equality while unblocking the region, and reciprocity, because that are the major principles that will create opportunities for all, but not for unique ones. And with Peace Crossroad project, we try to create interconnectivity, work with regional countries, create interdependency, and strengthen dialogue. Right now, Armenia is implementing many projects which is part of Peace Crossroad, North-South Highway, which is a project that's very much important in interconnection, but also develops Armenian infrastructure. The government of Armenia for the last few years also intensively investing in the infrastructures of Armenia, bringing to the level that will have an opportunity, those infrastructure, to be interconnected to regional infrastructures. And we invite regional countries and global community to be engaged in the process and gain from the process and invest in peace of the region. Thank you.
Secretary Comănescu, the organization of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation is a unique entity bringing together countries of the wider Black Sea region, including Armenia and Turkey, which do not have diplomatic representation otherwise. As our region, the South Caucasus, navigates the turmoil of geopolitics and geoeconomics, how do you see the role of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation in facilitating transit routes within the South Caucasus?
Thank you very much. And but before trying to answer to your justified and well-placed question, allow me a couple of remarks of a rather more general nature, but which on issues which, in my opinion, have a lot to do with the relevance of the Black Sea area and the South Caucasus. My second remark is that, but before that, also allow me to say that I'm particularly glad to be back in Yerevan at this second edition of the YerevanDialogue. I had the honor to be in the previous one as well. And I have to say that though this forum is a young one, looking at the level of participants, the panelists, speakers, and the topics chosen for the debate, it clearly shows that YerevanDialogue has already won a top place among events of this kind. And for that, I would like to congratulate our hosts, the Armenian government, for organizing this dialogue. So the two remarks, general remarks, which I wanted to make are the following. I think that you'll agree with me that in the last years we've been witnessing a lot of debate about deglobalization, decoupling, de-risking, how to diminish dependencies, how to build resilience based upon less dependency. Well, in my opinion, this is something which goes counter to the real developments into global developments, because we wanted to know globalization will continue. And it's important to be aware of the fact that this globalization is taking place, is continuing under a new paradigm, especially the one generated by the digitalization revolution. When talking about, so interdependencies will continue, and I would even say will grow. And this is why, in my opinion, I will repeat something which I have already said last year. Rather than speaking about how to build resilience individually, perhaps it's much more important to look into how to build resilient interdependencies. And that brings us to connectivity, which is the key for that. And you may agree with me that looking at the map of the world, this region, the Black Sea wider region and the Caucasus are key in the development of any serious connectivities which are taking into account the global trends in the economic world. And by the way, and this is the second remark of mine, when we look into the map of the world, we see where the engines of growth are. And that brings us to the awareness about the importance of enhanced connectivity between Europe and Asia. And again, you cannot imagine developing any alternative or any project or initiative related to connectivity without taking into account the Caucasus, the Black Sea, the wider Black Sea region, and the Caucasus as a whole. So these are the, now trying to come back to your question about what about the organization which I have the honor to represent is doing here. Well, this organization, which was set up 33 years ago, was set up exactly by the founding member states, 11 they were, now we are 13, in order, as a platform for cooperation, for identifying together ways and means to develop economy now in this region, but also to connect with the other regions. And this is what the BSEC has been trying to do. I will not elaborate that much on that, simply to say that during the years, several initiatives aimed at strengthening the connectivity inside the region, but also beyond that, have been taken in the organization. Let me mention, for example, the famous Black Sea Ring Highway, or the motorways of the sea, and very importantly, in the very practical terms, which proves that how important it is to concentrate our activities on the project-oriented type of actions. We've been in the organization setting up the so-called BSEC permit system, which is aimed at facilitating the crossing of the border of trucks of goods. And during the COVID period and after that, this BSEC permit system greatly facilitated crossing the difficulties which within our region, like others, have been confronted with during this period. And I'm glad to say that there are prospects. Now 9 of the members of the 13 member states of the EU, of the BSEC, are already. I will conclude by saying that in this particular project, Armenia has been very, very active. And I would like to take this opportunity to give my appreciation for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Dr. Khatibzadeh, Iran is involved very much in the geoeconomics of our region. Iran offers to establish the Persian Gulf Black Sea corridor connecting South and Southeast Asia with Europe via Iran, Armenia, Georgia, and the Black Sea. There is also the western segment of the international North-South transport corridor running through the South Caucasus and Azerbaijan in particular, with Resht Ashtara being the only missing railway link. And finally, just last month in May, the free trade agreement between Iran and the Eurasian Economic Union entered into force. So how does Iran view the transit potential of the South Caucasus?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this very opportunity to be here. And also I would like to thank organizers of YerevanDialogue 2025 for inviting us and also giving us this very opportunity to be in your very beautiful city in such a pleasant weather. Talking about South Caucasus, we have to take into consideration different issues, including the ones that you said. Everybody knows who are attending here that the map of this region indicate to what extent integration in this region, sub-region, South Caucasus, can help us to have a better connectivity and a strategic connection between countries of this region. For Iran, for many reasons, through the millennia, this region has been very important. Those who are aware of the history of this region, they know that for many millennia, Iran has benefited from two main corridors, east-west corridors that later on they labeled it as Silk Road corridor, from eastern border of Iran to the western border of Iran, of course, with two sub-roads, that one goes to Baghdad of those days and one goes to Anatolia and also this South Caucasus of those days. And also another one which is now they call it Spice Road. It's a very ancient also north-south corridor of old days, coming from India to Bandar Abbas and through Iran to Central Asia and Russia. So in this very broader map of connectivity in this region, everybody understands that Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and the whole region of South Caucasus are very vital and important. The initiatives that you mentioned, including the Persian Gulf Black Sea connectivity, and this corridor also is connecting to the two main region through Iran and Armenia to all the way through Black Sea. Maybe later on we can elaborate a little bit on this, but it shows that at the same time, while there are great potentialities and possibilities, at the same time the main question is that why we have not been able yet to materialize all the potentials that we see. This is where that we have to look a little bit on this geostrategic map of the region, and we have to be very careful that up until now there has been geostrategic competition and rivalry in this region that has avoided for the full materialization of the potentials of this region. The history tells us that any extra-regional geopolitical competition in this region is not for the good of the region. So all the countries in the region and in the neighboring area, they have to decide on one very important issue, that extra-regional geopolitical or big power geopolitical competitions, whoever they are, with any intention that they might have, the sacrifice will be the whole region. The second is geopolitical competition inside the region. This morning, Prime Minister of Armenia discussed about the previous routes and trying to revive them. I think it indicates to what extent this rivalry inside the region has also avoided this broader cooperation in this region. This is why that Iran has always vocally has said that any geopolitical changes in this region through any initiative is not acceptable. So any connectivity and any connection in this region should ensure that there is no geopolitical changes in the map of the region, being actual corridors or this sort of initiatives that we are hearing. And I would like to second what Mr. Grigorian said about the sovereignty and about the importance of anything being in the realm of international law. So I stop here, and probably I can elaborate later on if there are other questions as well.
Let's turn to you, Joshua, now. You have been following the region for some time, and as the South Caucasus grapples with multiple geopolitical and unprecedented developments, and by that I mean the Russia-Ukraine war, the tensions in the Middle East, and shifting dynamics in the Euro-Atlantic relations. So considering all this, how do you see the prospects of the region becoming this coveted transit hub via east, west, and north and south?
Thank you, Anahit, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Well, to state the extremely obvious, for the South Caucasus to become a viable transit hub, there needs to be peace. In particular, for the east-west variant of the middle corridor. Without peace, there's not going to be open borders between Armenia and Azerbaijan, between Armenia and Turkey. There's not going to be outside investment in the infrastructure that's going to be required for this region to become a viable transportation hub. But the flip side of that is that the prospect of the Caucasus becoming this hub of transport can help encourage the signature of the peace agreement. This vision of the Caucasus becoming integrated into the bigger world, not just in terms of infrastructure and trade, but in a broader political sense, can be an incentive to put the conflicts of the past behind and work towards a more cooperative future. Another political question that is standing over this is the relationship now between Georgia and the European Union. I'm sure, as you're all aware, the situation is not very good with relations right now. If this continues or continues to get worse, it's going to be more difficult for the EU to work to bring Georgia into this vision. That in turn will make Georgia less attractive for China, for example, to make the investments that it wants to make. And so this uncertainty is increasing the attractiveness of the Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan part of this east-west route, but it's putting some questions and making it more difficult to implement the larger project. Beyond politics, there are just some technical reasons that are going to make it difficult for this region to become a regional transport hub. There's bureaucratic hurdles. When you look at the middle corridor between Europe and Asia, you have to go through all of these countries of the Caucasus and Central Asia, crossing many borders that don't have integrated border control, customs, and so on. And this is a big bureaucratic hurdle for this route that has yet to be really addressed. There's a sea crossing. You have to cross the Caspian Sea to use this route. There's one port on this side of the Caspian, that's at Baku, which has relatively limited capacity. And then you have other geographical barriers like mountains in Georgia and the Caucasus in general. The northern route through Russia does not have any of these obstacles. As long as the war in Ukraine has been going on, there's been an incentive especially for outside actors to try to improve the conditions of the middle corridor. But with the prospect of that war ending, and to the extent that Russia is brought back into the world economy, there's going to be much less incentive for outside actors to make the investments into this middle corridor that could make the Caucasus a viable transit hub. And this is only going to increase the necessity for local actors, regional actors, actors inside the region to work on this.
Eleonora, let's talk about the Middle Corridor a bit more. It's one of the most discussed transit projects in recent years. Many speak about its potential to connect China with Europe, but there are also doubts about the viability of this project because of the logistical and legal complications, and the growing rivalry with China may add to the complexity as well. So, from a European perspective, how do you see the prospects of the Middle Corridor?
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you all for being here. I think Joshua already touched on very significant hurdles, but one thing should be clear from the European perspective. Of course, geopolitical necessities and the need to bypass Russia are definitely an incentive to go on with this middle corridor and make it more attractive, but it's also a matter of efficiency. The middle corridor is far shorter than the northern corridor, so I think the number of days that the cargo takes to arrive to Europe is basically half compared to the other route. So there is a lot of hype, and if you look at data, actually, you see that the increase in 2024 of cargo volume was like 60%, over 60% higher compared to the previous year. So of course, the incentives to invest on this route from the European perspectives are many, and from the South Caucasus and Central Asian perspective, but also from the Turkish perspective, this is a very worthy project because it increases also the geostrategic position of these regions. But of course, it is essential to manage expectations because of the challenges that we were talking about. It's not just geographical barriers, it's also climate-related threats, and this is valid especially in Central Asia, but I think in the South Caucasus, this is an important factor to take into account. The bureaucratic challenges and the hurdles in harmonizing the bureaucracy and the tax system among the states, of course, geopolitical volatility, and also from the European perspective, I think there is a fear that Russia will be able to co-opt this route. Of course, this is more in the general framework of the geopolitical confrontation between Russia and the EU, and of course in the framework of sanctions. Then there is one thing that I think worries Brussels quite a lot, is the very dynamics of the traffic, which is mainly from east to west. So for the European Union, this route is already more expensive than the other available routes. So if trucks then go back from Europe to the east empty, because of course the cargo volume is not as high as it is from east to west, then it adds up to the reasons why the middle corridor is deemed too expensive. And then, of course, the important thing from the Europeans' perspective is, again, to manage expectations and to imagine this middle corridor as developing in the future. Of course, the trend is clear. Europe is now committed to developing this middle corridor. It made it clear also in the first EU Central Asia summit just a few weeks ago, but at the same time, it's impossible realistically to think that the middle corridor will at some point substitute the northern corridor or become the main trade route. This is still not feasible in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years.
Thank you, Eleonora. Secretary Gregorian, you elaborated on the opportunities arising from regional connectivity, and they are compelling, but we also must address the challenges with the ongoing tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The very base to complete mega infrastructure projects such as the Middle Corridor or the International North-South Transport Corridor or the Crossroads of Peace, is of course geopolitical stability. So what can be done by all parties, and I mean the involved countries, the cooperating countries, investors and others, to address these challenges?
Thank you very much for the question. Just to continue where Madame Eleonora stopped, for example, Peace Crossroad, it's not only about global trade, but it's also about regional trade. I mean, we usually, when we try to discuss it, there's more global concentration. We try to see it from global perspective. That's very much important. But there is another very, very important aspect of that. It's regional trade and regional interdependency and strengthening cooperation in the region. And by the way, if we unleash the opportunity of the region, maybe it will also increase the cost of transportation. I'm sure if there is an economic assessment, then there can be factors or findings that will show that stronger regional cooperation and trade will create more opportunity and may also decrease the price and will create more opportunity. It's obvious that in the regional context, it will create also interdependency, and it's also about inclusion. I would like to mention that this project is about inclusion, not exclusion, and we see everyone participating in this project in the region, but also giving chance to other global actors to be engaged in the project. And Peace Crossroad should be also seen as I mentioned, part of the peace process. I know usually the thinking of peace is like it's an event, but in reality it's not an event, it's a process. If we think from process perspective, it becomes very much obvious that there are events that as in famous song it's said, would be another brick to the wall. I know nowadays sometimes wall has a negative connotation, but I'm very much on positive perspective of the wall. I mean, these events like unblocking, signing the peace agreement would be another bricks to the wall of building peace. And if we think peace as a process, it will become more easy, even in our mind, to resolve existing process and trying to move forward on establishing peace in the region.
Secretary General Comenescu, the Black Sea region has been the theater of geopolitical rivalries and commercial tensions. The efforts to stop the war in Ukraine have intensified, and stakeholders must start thinking about the future possible configurations of connectivity in the Black Sea. So is this something that the Black Sea Economic Cooperation is thinking about? And if so, how does it envision it?
Definitely the answer to your question would be yes. As you referred to the unfortunately still present conflict in our region, I hope that peace would come rather sooner than late, and I think that efforts should be, strengthened towards reaching this objective at the level of the international community, and that would definitely